episodes, like one of the best episodes we've ever done, got age gated. So a lot of you might not have seen it. I'm going to put it in the description. Click it and watch it after this one.
Thank you, Grambo. See that again? He's so smart.
I can't even say what he said.
I don't even. Whatever he said, please do it.
So let's get into the importance of bacteria and biostimulants, because we're biostimulant
and
people.
kind of like we were talking about even before. It's like, well, what the hell? Why is this worth studying?
Yep.
Why is this worth talking about? So why don't you take us away, Gabe, on some of the importance that we know about why bacteria and biostimulants, why they matter. Look.
We're Jug Dealers, we're the podcast you need in your feed, teaching the game like you never seen. Jared, Gabe, Rambo, true OGs, masters of the globe, set your mind free. From Denver, Colorado, where the data's green, we set the data points for the SOPs. Jug Dealers Podcast, yes indeed.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Jug Dealers Podcast, where we discuss all things cannabis and lifestyle related. Brought to you by the good people at 5-8. And now we have JugDealers.net, so you can find all our cool gear, and we'll send it right to where you
right straight to you. Yep. And if you do need any samples, if you do have bugs, if you've got thrips, which a lot of people thrips seem to be really bad right now. That's why I keep bringing it up.
Ever since they stopped the Spinosad.
Right. Ever since they stopped the Spinosad. Yeah. So, we've got that multi. We also have the Russet, kind of our own little IPM program along with the Eco. If you guys are interested, let us know. Always good to have more arrows in the quiver with your IPM program. Hence, it is integrated pest management, meaning it's using all the angles you can to knock them back. And actually, we are going to have coming up, and undoubtedly some IPM stuff will get put in there, which some of the predatory stuff is absolutely IPM as well. We will have an entomology, and we do have a veggie gardening, and we've got some other stuff coming up. Guys, we're bringing the information back. We did a lot of great interviews, and actually, good job to Gabe.
The Fletch episode's up around 30K, bro.
Yeah.
No, that was a fun one.
Yeah, we definitely had some really good interviews. Wolf's got the event coming up. What is that? June 22nd. This should be out. Probably right before it.
Right before it, I think.
So we are looking forward to that. We'll see everybody down there. They're at the Secret Stash, right? So we kept calling it Secret Stash.
Yeah, they're gonna have 3 blocks of Rhino, 4 blocks of Rhino. They're gonna have art installation, food. Our own Dave Davis, former pro skater, will be there judging the skate competition,
which is what it all culminates with. So it starts with a C deal, which we will have set up. We'll be out there with guys like Capulator, Real Rocky Mountain High
coming in.
Shout out to both those guys. And actually, to anybody, any of our international listeners that may be going to Berlin, which would be right now, it'd be like next weekend.
Yeah, no, Jair was wanting to drive down there with somebody. So.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. With everything that's going on in Germany, people are obviously licking their chops.
I know Archive is doing some big stuff in Germany.
Yeah, so. Yep. So interesting market. I was there earlier in the year. I went to the Essen show and was over there in Frankfurt and Munich and Essen and Western Germany there. And man, I was like really impressed. Shout out to Urban Grow over there. Those guys were absolutely amazing. Great hosts. Hope to see you guys again here soon. But I would love to hear from you guys about how that went. Any of our international listeners that went, please reach out. Let us know how it went. For anybody that's here that's more domestic, again, if you want any samples, if you need any samples of any of these great products that you see behind me or throughout the show, please reach out on JugDealers.net. Shoot us a message. We'll get you taken care of. If you have a Yahoo email, that might be problematic.
Really, bro?
It's so weird, dude.
I have a Yahoo email.
I don't know, man.
That's
Rambo, what's going on?
That's why I didn't get my samples.
It's something about our 5-8 servers.
They don't like Yahoo. So I don't know. There were 3 people in particular that early on did ask for samples, and unfortunately, I have not been able to.
All the good stuff. So you guys can go to JugDealers.net, or you can just skip the whole thing. Go to JugDealers.shop if you just want to grab some stuff.
Look at that. See, I didn't realize that. And to Grambo's credit, thank you so much for getting this up and rolling, Grambo. You've done a great job with it. The website looks amazing.
Yes, thank you, buddy.
And we are going to continue to build that out, put more videos on there, put educational stuff, put availability to try out new products, things like that. So be looking out for some wonderful additions to the website over time as Grambo keeps kicking ass on it. So thank you very much, brother.
Yeah, man.
Here we are.
I was going to say one thing I want to say too is,
please,
when this episode drops, I will actually be getting ready to go back to the East Coast. So I'll be there for the month of July.
Yes.
If your facility wants me to come through, wants me to check some things out, wants me to make some recommendations, we got a bunch of cool stuff. I want to be honest with you, man. There's a reason no one else makes our additives. I was fortunate enough. It was cool with this root episode because I was fortunate enough to visit the plant recently and to see the technology that we put in. I would put it against anybody else. Nobody is doing some of the stuff that those guys are doing. So, the nice thing is, we're not telling you to drop what you're doing. We're not telling you to stop using. I didn't say stop using front row. I didn't say stop using Athena or any of those other things. I said, let's give you.
Well, let's put some stuff on top of it.
And
let's sweeten the deal.
And that's why we're here today talking about part 2.
This is part 2
of the root zone, the rhizosphere, and more importantly, the rhizosphere and rhizosphere.
Do I have something there, guys? Roots, rock, rhizosphere. So I didn't take a dab before this.
No.
We might have taken lots of it. That might be why there's a part 2.
Yeah, that is why there's a part 2.
Hey now.
Well, we get talking. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, there's so much going on with plants. You guys know a lot. It's kind of crazy.
Well, whatever.
It is a culmination of, look, I started growing things with my dad when I was like 14, 15 years old. So, 33 years.
I started stumbling around the veggie garden as a very young lad. As soon as I could walk, I was walking through the gardens growing up in the Midwest. It was something that was just part of life, But it is what's really interesting, obviously, is we're talking about these things. And again, part 2 of our root zone, rhizosphere, rhizosheath episode. And we kind of started it out big, obviously at the root zone, and then stepped it down.
Working down to the minutia.
For everybody that was there with our last episode, thanks for coming back for round 2. And we're going to dive right into it. And one of the things I wanted to start with is really talking about, as we move it down, the rhizosphere versus the rhizosheath. I'll be honest, rhizosheath was not I kind of think it might be a fairly new term. Mm-hmm. I did not encounter it in my schooling, and I haven't seen it brought up much. And we actually, with our Rhizium product, there was some talk about, using that name. So anyway, rhizosheath, you can look it up. We're not bullshitting here, folks. We are not.
This isn't made up stuff, kids.
Okay. But the rhizosheath, what is it? It's a specific compartment of rather than the whole rhizosphere. So if the root zone's this big and the rhizosphere is this big, the rhizosheath is this big. So it's very, 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 very small. It's rich in water, nutrient, and liable carbon and microbial biomass. Rhizosheath has strong plant-soil microbial interaction and accelerates carbon cycling, which is obviously very important. In comparison with the normal rhizosphere, the rhizosphere is related to root hair cylinder volume and within a 0.5 millimeter radius of the root. So, and that's in rhizosheath. That just very.
We're not seeing that zone.
No. So while the rhizosphere is, can be a few millimeters wide, it's just related to root hairs and typically extends significantly beyond the boundaries of the rhizosheath. So it's, very tiny.
This is why we get nervous about those systems where it's 4-0 feed, 5-0 type runoff, because when you get that root zone too dry, and it can happen. You're going to cook those root hairs and then forget about it. And it affects the uptake of everything.
Yeah, it does. So basically it's that first less than half a millimeter from the actual side of the root.
Bro, so small.
Yeah.
So
and then beyond that half a millimeter, is that, basically is the rhizosphere. So very small, but very, very complex. So much going on in there. Again, we mentioned last episode just about some of the things and some of the different areas of study that are going on that you could go and check out. Moving on, the rhizosphere is an active zone of the terrestrial ecosystem, whereas physical, chemical, and biological features are greatly affected by soil root microbe interactions. Microbe interactions play a critical role in regulating terrestrial ecosystem nutrient and carbon biogeochemical cycling. Again, this is basically rhizodeposition. So it's depositing of carbon via the roots, right? So sounds pretty.
How much of the plant is carbon? 45%.
It was something like that. Yeah.
So it's important.
Yeah. Even I guess it's saying even right here, the rhizodeposition accounts for 30%, 40% of root derived organic compound inputs to the soil. So The rhizosheath is a specific type of aggregated soil attached to the root systems and differs significantly from the loosely attached rhizosphere soil and bulk soil.
And that's because it's so close to
right. And if you pull up that graphic there, it'll kind of show you a little bit more about, kind of shows you where the bulk soil is, shows you really where, the rhizosphere is.
That's a great graph. I don't know where you found that, but that's a great graphic.
Thank you. I
saw that, I don't know how many of you guys realize, but Jaron and I work on these episodes together, and we put, we generally send each other an outline and kind of pound through it, in which Jaron pulls up more pictures and stuff like that for sure. But this one, when I saw it, I definitely appreciated it.
No, I appreciate it. No, I thought it was a great graphic as well. And it was like, and again, just trying to wrap your head around exactly, what we're dealing with. Where's the bulk soil? Where's the root zone? Where's the rhizosphere? And again, I feel like this term, and if I'm wrong with the, rhizosheath being, not a newer term, by all means, somebody let me know. But it's weird because I went
to college about it. They didn't talk about it.
I don't know.
I didn't go to college for any of this stuff. I went for construction stuff. So, I just learned this on my own. So, and not for nothing, one of the reasons we do these episodes is so that we get better too. You know, I mean,
well, we're constantly learning. And again, a lot of this stuff we're filling in the spaces, and we do have a decent amount of direct, knowledge that we've accumulated over time. And then,
I think there's a lot of us, there's a lot of us in the cannabis industry, like myself, when I started back in the 90s, I liked plants. Weed was worth a lot of money.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Well, but did I know anything? No. Did I try and do some research? And I'll be honest with you, the first garden I did in 96 was, not that many plants. It was, I won't say, it was amended soil.
Right.
And, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So when someone introduced me to the hydrostones and the buckets and said, pink, green, brown, 3, 2, 1, go.
Boom, boom.
You know what I mean? All of a sudden it was like, well, we can all be pretty successful at this, you know what I mean? And so for a long time, and honestly, I managed, large commercial gardens from 2010 on, did some really cool things. But the reality is, one of the biggest reasons I came here was because I didn't really fully understand what the hell I was doing. So I appreciate having worked with you for the last couple of years.
Likewise.
I appreciate having worked with Bo and, having the access to Neil, because ultimately that's where the gaps were closed. But I think when we came up for the premise of this show, we were like, hey man, we're not the only ones with these gaps. Right. You know what I mean? So let's try and help fill in the gaps for people out there, because ultimately when we looked at a lot of the other platforms out there, we didn't see that ourselves. We had a lot of people. I have people who I really respect in the industry who would hit us up and be like, hey, I see Jaron on Dude Grows. I know you've operated a lot of big buildings. How about you guys do something? And that's really where all this came together. So a lot of this that you see here is really us kind of putting together the pieces from, years of experience.
And just to finish up that point that you guys are making there about that, Jaron had a question about, I looked it up about the rhizosheath is like it Pang, whatever study that was, about 2017. Although the earlier literature goes back to like 1911.
I'm not looking at that. Okay.
But 2017. Yes.
All right. Okay. So see again, man behind the glass, as I like to call him, even though there's no glass.
I mean, dude, you again, I say it every episode. You are keen to point out that even though you spent 4 years at school,
right,
there's still so much that they just had no effing clue about.
No, and this is science, guys. We're building the knowledge. It's just like what did Newton said? If I've stood above others, it's because I stood on the shoulders of giants, or if I've seen farther than others, it's because I stood on the shoulders of giants. And that's really an acknowledgement of what science is, and it's a building of knowledge. So we're here learning along with you, folks. Right along with you.
When I went and did when I went and got my job at Sacred Seed and had to deal with all the pesticide issues, I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Right.
But the one thing, I had a kid who worked for me. Kid's name was Brett Lerman. Forever. Shout out to Lerman. I don't even think he's in the cannabis industry anymore. Friend of mine from Iowa, actually. So good people. But he always used to say to me, just be able to do good research. Whatever you're looking up, type in the word .edu. whatever you're looking up. Don't go to the he always used to be like, don't go to the cannabis sites.
Right.
Because there's
the
35
sites.
Different opinions.
Yeah, you can find Google Scholar as well as a great source.
That's a great one.
For,
you can
actual white papers and stuff.
And you can click on that just right along with like on the image tab. I believe Google Scholar is right next to it.
And when we're putting these episodes together, that's how we do a lot of this stuff. Type in EDU, get some, peer reviewed. Yeah. Someone was doing this as their master's thesis for 4 years type.
I mean, the toughest part is kind of knowing to where to, cut up, because
draw the line.
Yeah. And we don't like to speak too far beyond our direct knowledge. We like to be learning right along with you. But again, it's like, I don't want to be going into these like crazy polysaccharides of this and that, everything. So I mean,
that's
it's like
for Neil.
Yeah. That's like,
and I'll just sit back and listen on that one.
Yeah. Right. And again, I'm not a chemist. I'm a horticulturalist. You know what I mean? I'm a plant man.
Speaking of that, if you guys didn't see the Neil episode, well, I'm going to put that in the description of this episode. So like one of the best episodes we've ever done got age gated. So a lot of you might not have seen it. I'm going to put it in the description. Click it and watch it after this one.
Thank you, Grambo. See that again, he's so
I can't
smart,
even say
bro.
what he said.
I don't even but whatever he said, please do it.
So let's get into the importance of
again,
bacteria and biostimulants, because we're biostimulant
and
people.
kind of like we were talking about even before. It's like, well, what the hell? Why is this worth studying?
Yep.
Why is this worth talking about? So why don't you take us away, Gabe, on some of the importance that we know about why bacteria and biostimulants, why they matter.
Look, soil pores in the rhizosphere can contain many bacteria and other microorganisms that feed on the sloughed off plant cells. So as plant cells are developing, there's plant cells that are dying and they're basically falling into the soil. Termed rhizodecomposition, and the proteins and sugars released by the roots, termed root exudates. So basically what's happening is roots are dying and cells are falling off. And then at the same time, the roots are secreting these sugars, and so the symbiosis leads to a more complex interaction influencing plant growth and competition for resources. Much of the nutrient cycling and disease suppression by antibiotics required by plants occurs immediately adjacent to roots due to root exudates and metabolic products of symbiotic and pathogenic communities of microorganisms.
Dude, you nailed that.
What does that mean? It means that there's all these bacteria that are basically feeding on these sugars.
And I'd like to point out just how, like, when people even talk about where health comes from the gut, right?
Yeah,
that's what kind of this reminds me of,
probiotics.
Right? And I look at it and I go, by antibiotics required by plants occur immediately adjacent to the roots. Like, you don't think about that. You don't think about like what all coming to the roots. So to me, it's like, man, again, more roots, more fruits. If you affect that root, you
using hypochlorous acid. Can I say it one more? Louder for the people in the back, please. Stop using hypochlorous acid.
And it's just, to me, it's such a shame to think about, like, again, it's a shame to think about wiping this whole episode off the face of the earth with just a fucking hypochlorous acid. You believe that? But again, I still maintain life happens. It's just not going to happen as prolifically as it could if you weren't beating it up with some of these cleaning products. But anyway, we're not here to...
And look, to people's to understand, again, I've grown in the commercial space. I understand that failing yeast and mold and mildew is a thing, but what I would say, and this is from experience, is I think a lot of those come from environmental, and personally, I think a lot of that can come from watering practices. One of the things that we used to do later in the cycle on things that we knew had propensity to have problems with mold was we wouldn't water them later in the day. Like I say to folks, don't put your plants to bed with wet feet.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, and that's even with, powder mildew in vegetables, one of the reasons that you don't, you try and water or try to do any sprays as absolutely early in the morning as you can, because you're not trying to extend the period that the plant was wet.
Yeah, it always killed me when people would be like, "Oh, I'm waiting for the lights to go off and then I'm going to spray." And I'd be like,
so in a field situation, it's like, it really comes down to, like, if they've been wet, let's just call it over 4 hours or something like that. Now you run into problems. If you keep just those gaps to where it's never wet for over that period of time. And again, different crops, different things, there you can get the Knott's Vegetable Growers Handbook, and it'll tell you all that crazy information.
I'll be dead on with you. If my lights go off at 7 a.m. and they come on at 7 p.m., I'm probably going to spray my room around 1, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Maybe.
Sure.
I'm still going to get that same efficacy, but I want it, I want it to be the end of my day.
Right,
you know?
right. And what are these plant exudates, right? They do include organic acids, sugars, including carbs and proteins. And again,
and organic acids, right?
Yep, exactly. And so what is that doing? Obviously it's feeding the microorganisms that are around it. It's constantly changing mix of soil organisms, including bacteria, fungi, nematodes, protozoa, and larger organisms like we've talked about. They all compete for space in the rhizosphere, but that in and of itself is what creates that cycle, that life and death cycle as it kind of moves along, or that symbiotic cycle that happens.
Everything
Bacteria
works together.
Yep. Bacteria and fungi consume those root exudates. In turn, they're eaten by bigger microbes such as nematodes and protozoa, and thereby life goes on.
And nematodes are good for the fungus nuts too.
Are good, man. And by the way, springtails, those are out there too. You might see that in a good healthy soil.
Yeah.
You'll actually see that.
It's funny because I'm going to be discussing, I was talking about bringing that up on my pest episode, which will be coming up here pretty soon. But, springtails is something that people commonly see. Get a phone call. What are these little white squiggly things in my soil?
It did it to
They're
me too
springtails. They're the homies.
And you'll see them. They feed on dead and decomposing matter. You'll see them in cocoa a lot as rice.
Yeah, they definitely are in cocoa quite a bit.
And I'll, it's when you water them, you'll see them all run to the top and you go, oh God.
Yeah. So you'll see them as the water kind of gathers, you'll see them all.
Yeah. So have no fear, folks. It's not so bad. All right. So as you all know, what we like to do with these episodes, we've taken it from the big, we've gotten all the way to the bottom. We've gotten all the way to the rhizosheath. We've literally gotten all the way to the root itself. So now we like to talk about what do we have here at 5.8 that actually that we can talk about that's in relation to the discussion we've just had. And this one's a great one because it is Rhizium, right? Which is a product that specifically, and actually we have a pic of it there in the folder, Grambo.
Before we get started.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Can our regular NewMill user who is using Lightning Start use Rhizium with it?
I would say yes. And part of the reason is because Lightning Start is dual purpose, right? So it roots and shoots. Right. Yep. So I look at it like, since that's 2-part, and since the Rhizium very, very, very specifically focuses on the root hair area, which is going to maximize surface area like we've just gone through, which is then going to maximize nutrient uptake. And really I'll tell you, we'll make sure and post.
Bro, we had a jump start. I mean, these guys purposely really messed up some clones, and we had brown roots,
right?
And it started growing when we applied the Rhizium. We were doing the testing. When we applied the Rhizium, it actually started shooting out beautiful white roots. Those plants came back really nicely.
Yeah. I mean, and so I'll give a little bit of read up on it. I actually really like the brochure. I think we'll end up posting it either on Instagram or some kind of link to it. My boy Grambo will take care of that. But I actually really like some of the write-ups that we have on there, of which I'll do a little bit here. So it is the newest member of the Slicium line of products, introduced a new technology specifically tailored to the rhizosphere. Wink, wink. For any phase of the plant cycle. Why? Because the rhizosphere is always important. It's doing somewhat different things at different time, but it's always doing certain things all the time. The technology within Rhizium is specifically designed to stimulate root development in terms of follicle hairs and the rhizosheath,
as of 2017.
Substrate particles. And you got to give it to Neil. He's the guy that stays up on this like crazy. Substrate particles directly adhering to root surfaces. So it's a soil that I actually read a definition when it was saying, right, it's when you rip it out, the stuff that's actually sticking to the that's essentially That's the rhizosheath.
Yep.
You know? So anyway, a combination of proprietary acids open up metabolic pathways within the within the,
look at those sexy roots.
Within the plant system, encourage protein and hormone synthesis. The direct result is hyper accelerated production of root biomass and reduction of root disease pathogens in the rhizosphere, which Gabe also mentioned when we had some pythium, some root rot going on. Boom. It's like I swear it was like new roots came out of the rotting roots. It was really crazy.
It was wild. It really was wild. I tell people this stuff could grow roots on a popsicle stick.
Rhizium is also, and keep in mind, this is not a root initiator, guys, right? This is once you already have
This is once you have them.
Yeah, this is making them.
The one thing we noticed too, and we're not sure that it's completely the Rhizium, but we did notice more branching as well.
Yes.
You know, so just closer branching, but that is in some way mimicking the root structure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm telling you, these little suckers, they were like 3.5 foot tall plants, easily going to crank out. I'm thinking 3,000 wet grams. I'm thinking 3/4 of a pound dry.
Sure.
Which, I mean, you can't, out of a 5x5 area, I was looking at close to 6 pounds.
Can't be that with a stick.
And I'll throw out there, you guys go over to JugDealers.net. We're putting out the Rizium's going to be dropping soon. So we have, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, is our newsletter. There's all sorts of weird stuff coming and maybe even some sales and a lot of new information. So make sure you just go over there to JugDealers.net. Scroll to the bottom. Subscribe to us over on the newsletter.
Come check us out. So also Rizium, as Gabe astutely mentioned, is capable of being used in emergency situations where reinvigoration and reconditioning is desired. Use Rizium for instances such as encouraging stronger uptake of hard to absorb nutrients, specifically dry mixes, rapid transplant adaptation to stimulate freshly rooted clones and seedlings, again, after they've been rooted, to decrease vegetative time frames and through root acceleration, curing root diseases, and then, of course, rebalancing nutrient deficient plants just by encouraging and maximizing uptake due to the additional root hair development and maximizing uptake. So really a great product. Again, we've got all the directions for it. It's only 1 to 2 mils per gallon. Very, very concentrated stuff.
Everything in the 5/8 family. That maximizing your dollar comes first.
We've got a beautiful bottle too, and I don't even have it here.
Neil is not about that overuse life. Like, I mean, I think you see a lot of people when it comes to powders, and they talk about, how water, we don't want to ship water. We don't want to ship water, and the reality is, water is a great carrier, and water is going to, if you can get it into suspension in water and it stays in suspension, there's no more bioavailable form, and that's really where you see the biggest thing with a lot of these dry salts is, stuff will fall out of suspension at some point. Whereas, you look at these New Millennium bottles and like, you could have a bottle. I mean, I think our bottles are good for like 4 or 5 years as far as staying.
Well, and it's
what do you got there, Jared?
Okay, well, as promised. So
new,
honestly,
doesn't even have a label.
A mil per gallon, dude.
Mil per gallon.
So
even this 275, you're looking at basically 550 gallons maximum on it, which is really pretty amazing. It's in these beautiful rose gold bottles.
Beautiful.
The labels you will see not on here yet because that's how fresh it is. But you can see it's fresh off.
I'll be honest with you. I used some. I used some this morning before I came down because I had some clones.
Not gonna lie,
pretty goddamn stubborn. I got some OGs that are just really giving me a tough time right now.
See, and of course, you know what? Let's take a poll here, an informal poll. All right, this is so new, folks. This is so new. I'm glad you've listened this far into the program.
Just happened.
Okay, you ready for this, Rambo? You ready?
I'm born.
Okay,
ready.
I want an informal survey on whether we call it Rizium or Rizium.
I call it Rizium.
Okay, but I call it Rizium because it's the what? Rhizosphere.
Well, can I say this about the kids?
Not to influence.
It's the Rhizosphere.
So the kids have renamed charisma to the Riz. So
that's a drug.
If someone has the Riz, they're said to be very charismatic and getting
I'm a wordsmith. I don't cheat like that. That's some bullshit.
Saying.
I don't fuck you kids.
Don't fuck kids.
That just got us age restricted.
Edit that. So again, I am curious. So if you feel, I always like Rizium because to me, it's a rhizosphere. It's a rhizosheath, Rizium. But anyway,
again,
informal.
People. Again, the first thing I always do when I go into a garden and I look at people's plants is I look at the roots. I dig through their pots. I see how thick that is because it dictates so much of what is going on in your plant. So I mean, there shouldn't be an out of sight, out of mind. And I know. Nowadays, especially, look, with the price of cocoa has gotten pretty expensive, so the reality is people are planting in the smallest receptacles they can to, and they're trying to grow the biggest plants they can in these smaller receptacles, in which I'm a huge fan of that. But the thing you got to understand is you're running a very tight line.
Yeah, you're running on a razor thing. You don't have a lot of room for error. I mean, again,
you're driving a Ferrari.
You're driving a Ferrari. I mean, it's like, yeah.
That's what I always loved about 3 gallon pots, and that's why when you go back to our cocoa episode, that's what I recommend is the 2 to 3 gallon pot,
3 gallons,
because you can always, like, if you come into a room and you have plants that look half dead, they will come back.
Right.
If you have it in an 8-inch Hugo block,
Bye bye.
Nighty night, Sam.
Yeah. It's gone. I mean, for real though.
That's real talk, dude. And you don't have to believe me. I'm telling you from a place of experience. So, and that's $1 million room in a lot of cases.
Just like a race car driver that makes it look easy.
Put it in the wall.
The guys that are really good running with Rockwell, they make it look easy too.
By the way, that's not me saying.
And those guys are talented.
Yeah, the dudes who run Rockwell, but you got to have a great team. You got to know. You got to have a great
shout
leader.
out to Cali Buds out there. He's a supporter, and he's a Rockwell ripper.
Our buddy Dredd.
Dredd.
He might be the most his stems are
Dredd's
a quarter foot around.
Yeah, Dredd is absolutely
using
ripping
a 4-inch block or something like that. Quarter foot.
I had to think for a second.
I'm running boards and stuff over here. I'm grasping at words.
My man's out there, baby's arm holding an apple.
My man's is out there.
We already went this far.
Well, what the hell? You know what the hell? It's
shout out to Dredd. Those guys are absolutely mobbing. So
and the guys that do it well, really do it well.
The dudes that crush on Rockwell, God bless you guys.
God bless you boys. And girls.
Shane Hudo.
Shane Hudo slays on it.
Yeah, I mean,
very high.
The Rockwell Hudo block.
Yeah, he's the rock. I mean, if anybody is, he's the Rockwell king. So
okay, let's talk about something that actually happened internationally in the cannabis world very recently. Something that's interesting and is also, kind of becoming even more near and dear to my heart and some of the work we've done recently. But there was a South Africa legalization bill that was signed recently. It was a day before their elections, which apparently
it's the way to do it, baby.
Well, a lot of things happen right before the election. Like all of a sudden roads are getting fixed, like shit's happening. After the election, not so much. And the South African listeners out there can confirm nor deny that, but that was kind of the joke with a lot of stuff while I was out there. It's like, oh, look, they're actually doing something. Oh, elections are soon. So, but a bill did get signed. And can you pull that up actually, Mr. Graham-Beasy?
The Graham Bizzle.
The Graham Biz. So apparently this has been going out there. And of course, as any bill, people have, there's certain contingencies of people that are all for it. And there are certain contingencies of people that didn't like some of the writing in it, whatever. But basically that they're saying that essentially it's prohibition is unconstitutional. It's essentially what it's coming down to, which is really, I felt like, quite interesting. So long story short, it says South Africa's president has signed a bill to legalize marijuana possession and cultivation by adults. Gave his approval. It's called the Cannabis for Private Purposes Act, and it was done just one day ahead of the national elections, just like we said. So we will have the link that we can put up on that if you guys want to read the whole story on it. But that's definitely very exciting news for us as we are in the process of getting some products over there. We're getting it over to you folks. You believe me, we are coming. If everything works out well, hopefully I'll actually be there by the end of the year again. If we've got products over there, you'll be seeing me back. You can trust me on that. So anyway, take a look at it. South African legalization. Hoorah. Welcome another major country to the legalization side of things.
Interesting to see it happening around the world. Interesting to see it happening around the world quicker than we can get our shit together here.
The heck, man. Yeah.
But I mean, and I was going to do a shout out as well. Grambo and I had talked about this, at the beginning of the episode or beginning before we filmed this episode, but I think it's the FDA right now has an open, they have an open website where you can basically pose any of your comments about your thoughts on Schedule 3 rescheduling, and you can actually go and request to be on the hearings. I know I've encouraged Eugene to kind of step up. I know because the reality is, this is going to be, I think we might even do an episode on it, but this is going to be a very long process. Like this is not going to be the type of thing where like somebody's going to wave their wand and we're going to have legalization before the next election. That's just not a thing. The reality is, no one's going to legalize smoking flower.
Well, well, not even that. I don't think that matters at all. I think it's all there's checks and balances. It just can't happen overnight. That's the bigger.
We don't even. We have no idea who's going to oversee and how they're going to oversee.
In reality, is like nobody's. We're not also trying to call it all medicine either. So I don't think I'm not worried about the smoking aspect.
But I would encourage
is that it just doesn't take.
I would encourage people to get in and give their 2 cents. I would say the government. I would say the government is, if you were to take what they're doing with the farm bill,
right,
I would say they're posturing to do a lot of things that people probably aren't going to be too happy about. So,
there you have it.
Buckle up, kids.
The big money. One of the things big money actually does, like you think, oh, big money just influences the government. One of the things they do is try to convince you that that's how it works.
Well,
mad citizens are actually what gets things moving. If you guys all reach out and in mass, and obviously our podcast isn't going to get people in mass, but if you tell 2 people and they tell 2 people,
hey,
if 1,000 people show up on that website and break it, they're like, hey man, people care about this issue.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease, folks.
Damn
That's
right.
for sure. Let's talk about, we weren't going to do a strain talk today.
Gabe.
Or the
squeaky gear who gets replaced.
Well, make sure you get the grease in there.
Either way,
there's a
grease,
shirt on there for a reason.
Be the squeaky wheel.
Some grease. Never hurts, am I
Let's talk about, you wanted to bring up, and we weren't going to do a strain talk today. And this is one of the things you'll see come and go throughout these shows, but you did in fact want to bring one up. Why don't you go with that?
I did want to bring one up that really stood out to me. It is the homie, the protege, Austin Edelmeyer, working at Peninsula Gardens. I got some sherb pie that Eugene brought to me that was totally stand out. I mean, some of the better weed I've smoked this year.
We'll put on our Instagram a link to Trichome's page. I believe he's still posting on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he still active on there? Okay. Let's get, hey puppy. Let's get,
hey, we got a visitor in the studio.
A visitor.
Where go, baby?
Hey, all right. He didn't shut the door.
Barged in.
Okay. Well, we'll let old Luna chill. So why don't you talk about that sherb pie? So it was Trichome Jones, but done at Peninsula right there in Michigan. So why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Dude, I'll be honest with you. Those guys are growing under LEDs. They've been cranking, for a while now. That team, Austin really helped start that garden. That team has really been cranking out a lot of really delicious flavors for a while. I mean, they're one of the premier grows in Michigan. Knowing Austin, knowing what he does, the kid takes a lot of freaking notes. Takes a lot of notes.
He pays attention.
Writes everything down. Makes the adjustments. His building's dialed.
So let's talk about the flower. This is supposed to be strain talk, bruh.
I mean, look, it's I don't know how to describe it. It's like, it's sweet. Do we know?
Can you pull up what the genetics are, Grambo, if you don't mind? Sherb pie. Sherb pie.
I guess one of the biggest
Georgia pie cross sherbet. What do we got?
One of the biggest things that always bothers me is when you smoke people's flour and it doesn't taste like it smells.
The translation doesn't come through. Very annoying.
It doesn't. It's not. And by the way,
I don't think that's necessarily. I don't think anybody's doing wrong, but sometimes just certain strains. Right? It's annoying though. It's super annoying. I hate that.
This stuff. It had like. I want to say it's fruity, but it really had just a really pleasant.
Did you?
I don't maybe it's everything that's right with the fucked up shit that's gelato nowadays.
Did you say you liked fruit? Did I hear?
Yeah,
that?
I mean, look, I'm okay with it. But it had like a cakey taste as well.
So what do we got? What do we have with the actual genetics here?
We got some gelato 33. Yeah. We got some wedding cake gelato 33.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it's everything it's everything that's wrong with gelato not there. It's like a strong. I would say that probably is that.
Well, I'll be honest. Like
doughy, it's richer.
The soap that I grew recently,
bakery.
It was just super gelato. Looked good and everything else, and it was bigger buds than like some of it. But it was just another updated gelato, and it's like gelato's good, but gelato's gelato.
This one's, dude. Like I said, I mean, you're not going to catch me talking nice about gelato very often.
No, that's why I'm poking a little bit of fun here.
That's why I kind of made it a stand because it was definitely. Look. Give me some rosin that blows my mind. I don't care. Like, I'm not saying I don't,
Here's the thing.
I gave you some rosin.
Shout out to the High C by the emergency by Mr. Rambo.
We'll take it down.
The smoking.
Rambo actually grows weed and the Jug Dealers approved. I was honored.
You know what? We better get this thing finalized because I'm out here to smoking some emergency. But folks, before we go,
final suggested reading for this particular one. Dirt.
Nice.
And actually, this isn't just. I could have done a soil science book. That one's easy, right? Could even brought back around. Jeff Lowenfels. Always big shout out. A lot of love to Mr. Lowenfels and the the microbe quadrilogy.
Quadrilogy.
And by the way, go to
Trilogy is so much easier.
We're going to talk about it.
+1.
Magnificentgarden.org. Neil that formulated New Millennium, and he made an awesome product. I've been using it in my garden the last month, dude.
And you'll see it featured in our veggie episode.
Magnificentgarden.org. It is available for purchase.
So, okay, what is dirt about? So this is, again, I wanted something that was a little bit different. It did have something to do with soil, but dirt soil, call it what you want. It's everywhere we go. It is the root of our existence, supporting our feet, our farms, our cities. This fascinating yet disquieting book finds, however, that we are running out of dirt. And I also like to say that dirt is inert and the soil is alive, but you got to, whatever. Anyway, we're rolling with it. And it's no laughing matter. An engaging natural and cultural history of soil that sweeps from ancient civilizations to modern times. And that's what I thought was really interesting. What I found interesting about this book is this, this evolution of soil and understanding of soil over time. And even to what you were talking about as far as moving across the West slashing and burning and these different farming techniques and this lack of an understanding of what was really going on. Hence the name of the erosion of civilization, and explores a compelling idea that we are and have long been using up Earth's soil. Hence why it's also called dirt, because remember, I called it inert. So it acknowledges that we started with soil and now we've been making dirt, which is a really sad state of affairs and also a very dangerous state of affairs. Once bare protected vegetation exposed to wind and rain, cultivated soils erode bit by bit, slowly enough to be ignored in a single lifetime, but fast enough over centuries to limit the lifespan of civilizations. This is a very rich mix of history, archaeology, and geology. Dirt traces the role of soil use and abuse in the history of Mesopotamia, ancient Greece, and the Roman Empire, China, European colonialism, Central America, and the American push westward. So all the things we've kind of been mentioning. Really, really interesting book, folks. We see how soil has shaped us and how have we shaped soil. As society after society has risen, prospered, and plowed, no pun intended, through a natural endowment of fertile dirt. David M. Montgomery sees in the recent rise of organic and no-till farming the hope for a new agricultural revolution that might help us avoid the fate of previous civilizations.
We travel a lot.
Yeah.
And, when you fly over this country, you see a lot of circles. You do. You see a lot of circles. And
crop circles.
Yeah.
Well, and
I don't think people realize how important, even when you go out to the plant and you see what's going on out there, and it's just, dude, it's all farmland.
It's all farmland.
And huge facilities for processing very specific crops, potatoes, apples. You go up to George Washington.
Sure.
And you go to the gorge up there.
It's wild, right? And they're all spoliated out too. It's crazy.
It's amazing because up there, Mount St. Helens blasted that entire eastern side of the state. You have a desert, but then the Columbia River is the biggest water source west of the Mississippi. So they pump all the water up there. And when if you ever go to a concert out there and you drive around, they are growing so many different vegetables and stuff, and fruits and stuff like that. And really, understanding, when I lived in Pennsylvania or in Maryland and was growing back there, anytime it was going to rain, you didn't have to watch the weather. You knew because they were out spraying the fields with manure or whatever they were doing. So when you went outside and it just percolate. When it absolutely stunk, you were like, "Oh God, it's gonna rain tomorrow because they're trying to water all that in."
On that note, let's wrap up section 3. Final piece of us. Any IG questions you have, we are going to do a questions episode coming up soon. So please get them in. You can either get into the Instagram. You can also shoot it over to us at the comment section there on the JugDealers.net website.
And the community tab for YouTube too. It's one of those things that
there we go.
It's hard to find, but it finds you. It's kind of weird, but yeah. I'll do a community thing.
So if you got any out there, guys, we're going to be doing that soon. We like to do that periodically. So we'll do a Ask the Jug Dealer section. Put it up there. Who knows? You might be featured. Quickly before we end here, last but not least, we do want to do supporter shout outs. We did just have the Dude Grows Cup. Grambo, you had a kick-ass time out there. What a time. Hey, shout out to the dude
and to
Scotty
Jaren's credit, man, just because all the stuff that people always say about Jaren's weed, I was getting handed joints left and right every 2 seconds. Grambo, hit this. I hit a random joint and I go, holy shit, what's this? I go, oh, it's Jaren's weed. I go, son of a bitch. Of everything I smoked. Did you enter? I don't even know.
I did enter a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was fire, man.
Yep. Great event.
What won?
So one of the things Gabe and I discussed, one of the strains I kind of been curious about, one was the Black Maple.
Black Maple, that's right.
And it finished 2 of the top 6 was the Black Maple.
Yeah, Black
This
Maple.
is for flower?
Yeah.
For flower.
Do they have any type of extract?
Yeah. It was for sale. Our buddy Taking Tops over there.
Yeah, but they don't. I believe there's been a couple years where they've done extract, but no, in general, it's a flower cup.
Yeah. It wasn't a flower cup.
Yeah.
But
do they break it up in sativa?
No, it's an open, dude. It's just like cultivation.
Winner take all.
Winner take all. Yep.
Baby.
Nice.
Okay.
Rumble.
Also, I saw Jay Maestro out there. Shout out to Jay Maestro. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting, bud. You're down there in Florida kicking ass. I know you're also supporting our good friends at Urban Roots. Yes.
He hangs out in the chat. Love you, Maestro.
He is. You're always there. So it's great to chat with you for a little bit and hang. Also, our boy Michigan Matt, keeping it down there in Michigan for Faded Michigan. Shout out to Michigan Matt and Faded Michigan. Shop shout outs, and this is based on my recent run through Northern California. Shout out to North Coast Fortuna. You can go, in fact, find your magnificent garden there at North Coast Fortuna. It will be available. And then also our good buddy Dylan over at Deep Roots there in Sebastopol. They also have one in Santa Rosa.
I actually wanted to give a shout out to Old Town Hydro.
Hydro. There we go.
Just opened up in the old HTG location in Beltsville, Maryland.
Very cool.
So if you guys need anything, get down there. Tell them you need some NewMill. We will get you.
And we'll make it happen.
Whatever you need.
Last but not least, we would like to, if you guys have good nug shots, if you guys have pics, we'd love to feature you. Send them in. We'll put them up on Instagram. We could even do a little bit of a review on them. So if you're proud of your stuff, get it out. Send it to us. Let's check it out.
Tag us on Instagram. If you use Instagram at Jug Dealers, tag us. I put if you grew with Scietetics, New Millennium, anything in the 5.8 catalog, I repost you in our stories and lots of people see it.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you listening. Part 2 of the Rhizosphere episode. Most of the stuff about actually the Rhizosphere, Rhizosphere, et cetera. It's on part 1, but we had to finish it out. We didn't want to keep you guys here forever. It's like Netflix says, hey, do you want to watch a 10-hour movie? No, I don't. Hey, would you like watching 10 one-hour episodes? Sign me up.
Sure. I'm in. Until next time, kids.
Until next time from the Jug Den. We'll see you soon, guys.
Peace.
Peace.